Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really beloved, classic folktale straight from the land of Java. It's a story about two very different sisters, a lost piece of clothing, and one incredibly magical encounter. But it's actually way more than just a fairy tale. It works as this fascinating study of human nature and, well, the very real consequences of our actions. So, picture this. What if a regular old pumpkin actually had the power to reveal your true character? Sounds kind of absurd, right? The idea of a vegetable passing judgment on your soul. But as we're going to see, the pumpkin in this story is definitely not your average garden gourd. It operates as this ultimate magical karmic test, literally a mirror reflecting exactly what's hiding inside a person's heart. All right, let's get into section 1, A Tale of Two Sisters. Let's set the scene here. We're in this beautiful, peaceful village surrounded by green rice fields and shady trees, but inside one particular modest little house, the dynamic is, well, completely out of whack. Let's look at this stark contrast. We have Bawang Putih, the daughter of the father's late first wife. She is up way before the sun even rises. She's sweeping the courtyard, fetching water, washing clothes, making the meals. She carries the weight of the entire household, yet she stays gentle. She never lets resentment take root. Meanwhile, her stepsister, Bawang Merah, she stays comfortably in bed. And when she finally bothers to wake up, she just demands her breakfast. Her mother, the stepmother, takes Bawang Merah's side entirely, which creates this profoundly unfair and just grueling life for Bawang Putih. Moving right along to section 2, the river and the test. So, the stepmother's strict demands are about to kick off this wild, magical chain of events. We can actually trace Bawang Putih's really anxious journey from morning all the way to late day. In the morning, her stepmother hands her this massive bundle of clothes with a strict warning: wash every single one spotless. But by midday, tragedy strikes. The river is running fast and splash, a garment slips right out of her hands and gets swept away by the current. Knowing her stepmother is going to be absolutely furious, Bawang Putih spends the entire afternoon desperately following the winding river. She asks everyone she meets, but no luck. Finally, late in the day, she's exhausted, losing hope, and she spots this remarkably neat little cottage beside the river. There's an old woman there, quietly weaving, and good news, she has the garment. But she asks for a little favor in return. And honestly, this right here brilliantly illustrates Bawang Putih's pure heart. The old woman asks for help, and without missing a beat, Bawang Putih gets straight to work. She sweeps the floor, clears the courtyard, washes the utensils, fetches water, and helps prepare a meal. She tackles all these tiring chores sincerely, without a single complaint. When she's done, she even asks the old woman if there's anything else she can do. She doesn't see the work as some transactional burden, She genuinely just wants to help out. Which brings us to section 3, the small pumpkin's blessing. Because of this incredible sincerity, the story takes a magical turn. The old woman is deeply touched, and she offers Bawang Putih a choice between two pumpkins as a reward for her hard work. One is small, and one is remarkably large. And Bawang Putih's choice reveals just profound humility. She tells the grandmother, "I will take the smaller one, grandmother. I do not want to take more than I need." She is actively rejecting greed here. She looks at that enormous pumpkin and consciously decides, nope, I'm not taking that just because it's bigger. She chooses the modest little pumpkin, which perfectly aligns with her own humble nature. So, she thanks the grandmother and heads home, where, of course, she is immediately scolded by her stepmother for taking so long. After she explains what happened and shows them her modest little gift, Bawang Merah demands that they open it. So, Bawang Putih takes a knife and gently cuts into the simple vegetable. And the reveal is just staggering. From inside this tiny, unassuming pumpkin spills an absolute fortune. We're talking gold coins, precious jewels, and glittering gemstones pouring right out onto the table. Bawang Putih just folds her hands in quiet gratitude. She sees it as a blessing. But for Bawang Merah and her mother, a sudden, really dark envy blooms. They can only think one thing. If a small pumpkin holds this much wealth, imagine what the massive pumpkin must hold. All right, section 4, the large pumpkin's curse. That very night, this greedy pair devises a plan to trick the old woman out of an even bigger fortune. So the next morning, Bawang Merah acts out this highly corrupted version of her sister's journey. She actually deliberately throws her own clothing into the current, totally faking that she's frightened. She completely manufactures the crisis, marching down the river with basically dollar signs in her eyes until she reaches the old woman's cottage. When the old woman asks her to help out in exchange for the clothes, Bawang Merah very reluctantly agrees. Now, Bawang Merah does perform the exact same sequence of chores, but she completely taints every single action with just pure entitlement. While she's sweeping, she complains that the house is enormous. Fetching water, she grumbles that it's way too heavy. And while making the meal, she literally mutters, "Why should I have to do all this?" And the old woman just watches all of this in absolute silence. When the chores are finally done, Bawang Merah literally snatches her clothing back and basically demands her reward. Offered that exact same choice between the two pumpkins, she doesn't hesitate for a single second. "I want that one," she says, pointing directly at the largest pumpkin. There is absolutely no humility here, no gratitude, just a raw demand for unimaginable wealth. So Bawang Merah hauls her massive prize back home. Her mother is, as you can imagine, ecstatic. They heave this giant pumpkin onto the table, practically shaking with anticipation for all the gold and jewels that are about to be theirs. Bawang Merah takes a knife and slices it open. But surprise! Instead of treasure, a chaotic nightmare bursts out. We're talking snakes slithering across the floor, frogs leaping out of corners, strange crawling insects everywhere. It's absolute panic. The greedy pair run out of their home in sheer terror. But here's the kicker. Even after all their cruelty, who steps in to help them drive the pests away? Bawang Putih. Standing there amidst all that chaos, Bawang Merah and her mother are finally hit with this overwhelming shame. They realize that this nightmare is the direct consequence of their own greed. Let's unpack all this in Section 5, the magic behind the pumpkin. So how exactly did this work? The magic behind the pumpkin is that it wasn't just some random vegetable lottery. It was a karmic mirror. It actively read and physically manifested the inner character of whoever was opening it. It basically acted as a sentient judge, adapting what was inside to perfectly fit their soul. Because Bawang Putih's heart was full of genuine kindness and humility, it produced treasure. But for Bawang Merah, it unleashed literal venomous and creeping pests, which perfectly mirrored the toxic envy and greed festering inside her. Looking at the big picture here, the core themes and lessons are super clear. Sincere help brings unexpected goodness, while wanting everything brings only trouble and sorrow. But the most beautiful transformation happens around this idea of true wealth. After the whole incident with the giant pumpkin, Bawang Merah and her mother actually repent. They sincerely apologize to Bawang Putih, and she forgives them instantly. From that day on, Bawang Merah actually does her share of the chores, the mother is kind, and the family lives in true harmony. They finally figure out that a peaceful family and an honest heart are worth way, way more than the gold that spilled out of that first pumpkin. We're going to wrap up today's explainer with a really powerful final quote from the text. "A kindness offered with a sincere heart may not always be repaid at once, but no true act of kindness is ever wasted." I think that leaves us with a pretty provocative question to ask ourselves. If you were handed a magical pumpkin today, based on your daily actions, your complaints, or your quiet acts of help, what exactly would spill out when you cut it open? Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope this tale gives you something wonderful to reflect on today.